Green marketing, it's everywhere. Do you guys see green marketing in your home life? Where do you see green advertising and marketing?
Cleaning.
Subaru is probably the biggest of the green messaging companies in the automotive industry. Sure. Why is it so prevalent today? I'll tell you in a minute. Has everyone suddenly become sensitive to the environment? Well, people are environmentally sensitive. One question I have is, how sensitive are they to the environment at a time now when the economy is really rough? Should hospitals be involved in green marketing? Mark's going to talk to you about the stuff that Lexington Medical Center in West Columbia, South Carolina is doing in terms of green marketing. To answer the question, why are you here? First of all, it's prevalent to what you do. Almost every one of you probably how many of you work for hospitals? Raise your hand. Okay, in your hospitals, do you have any green practices? Yeah, so the majority of you are already doing green things in your hospitals. So it is pertinent. You're probably doing more green than you realize, and we're going to redefine green in terms of what it means in a healthcare environment for you. It represents an opportunity, and this is important. It represents an opportunity for you to connect with your brand constituents on a values level. I'm going to talk about the notion of sharing values with consumers, this notion of echo branding. Echo branding, where you're echoing the values of consumers back at them. If consumers care about the environment and you're giving them green messaging and saying, hey, as a healthcare institution, we care about that too, and here are the things we're doing, suddenly you have shared values. And that means a closer bond. You're more than just another good hospital in the market. You're a hospital that shares their values. And that's important. And finally, you're doing good work. You guys raised your hand that you're doing green things in your hospital, so get credit for it. During a recession, do people care? Well, in October, Gallup did a survey. And granted, the recession has gotten even worse since October. But in October, people were suffering. Those first 3 bullets are all about people feeling the pain of the recession. Yet 49% said they would still choose saving the environment over economic growth. That's pretty fascinating to me. Now, it was 70% in 2000. So it shows you that the recession has really hurt that number. And one thing I'll caution you about, people when they're being surveyed like to say positive things. You know, they like to say, I care about the environment, I love children, I love animals. So the number's probably a little bit skewed. But in general, people really do care about the environment. Even if the financial crisis weakens that. People want to feel good. And companies that advertise like Subaru and promote a green philosophy, when you buy a Subaru, it helps you feel good about yourself. You know, I'm expressing my values through my purchase decision. Starbucks, how many of you go to Starbucks? They have a ton of stuff about the environment, don't they? They're about a lot more than just selling coffee. At least that's what they want you to believe. You know? And people feel good about that. They want to do business with organizations and brands that share their values. You guys see green messaging everywhere. I don't know if your hotel rooms on this trip have any green messaging in them, like, you know, tell us if you want to wash the sheets or wash the towels. This is the hotel I stay at whenever I go visit Mark, and I see this every time I'm there. Green taxi cabs. Have any of you ever seen green taxi cabs? It's a trend across the country. They're hybrids. Green colleges. Here's the alumni magazine for William and Mary, Going Green. They obviously think it's an important thing to their constituents. Green paper, it's been around for a while. Green printing technologies are really popular right now. Green awards. The Business Journal in my community in Raleigh, North Carolina, has a green awards competition where they recognize companies for being green. It was interesting when they sent out the first brochure promoting this, it wasn't on recycled paper. That's problematic, and that's the kind of thing you have to be careful about. If you're going to be marketing yourself as a green organization, you have to watch out for those contradictions. Green conferences, right? Did any of you notice yesterday at the 4 p.m. general session, the guy who got up and introduced everybody talked about how this is a green conference and we all need to go back to our hospitals and carry forth the green messaging, and that they've done away with the water bottles. So what are we drinking out of now? Plastic cups. So you have to be careful with green messaging. Green restaurants. Kids today, and this is probably the most important part of the whole green movement, is kids are being raised with a lot of green messaging. Do any of you have kids? Yeah, there's green messaging everywhere for kids. Restaurant menus, this is on the border Mexican restaurant. I pulled this stuff from my daughter. She has American Girl dolls and gets American Girl magazine. These were a couple pages I just scanned out of American Girl magazine about Earth Day and the environment, show the earth some love. They're growing up with this kind of messaging. Scholastic, one of the biggest companies marketing to kids and schools and teachers. Green, what do you call them, bookmarks. This was a bookmark that I scanned with green tips along the way and a little green multiple choice quiz on the back. And finally, my daughter's class, they do exercises out of Time magazine for kids, and there's always green messaging in that. So we have a whole generation of kids growing up with this green messaging. I don't know how that's going to impact them, frankly. They might be immune to it by the time they're adults, or it might be part of their fabric. But as marketers, we have to consider this because they're the next generation we're going to be marketing to. So it's all about eco-branding when it comes to green marketing. It's a form of consumer engagement. It's saying, we value what you value. As a hospital, it's important to us. We recycle, we have green technology, we have green buildings, we care for the environment. We know that's important to you. What I'm going to tell you is that in healthcare, it's more than that. It's not just about eco-branding and saying we share your values. In healthcare, it's about saying our job, and we should be leaders in this, is to provide safe and healthy environments for patients, their families, visitors to the hospital, and our staff, our employees. So it goes beyond this eco-branding. Right now, this green marketing is very popular with banks, I notice. Why do you think banks are all of a sudden having all these green checking accounts and green loans?
It saves them money.
It saves them money. What else?
They need to improve their...
Yeah, this is a time when people are really questioning the values of people who work in the financial industry. So they're trying to say, hey, we're good guys, we have the same values as you. And the one way they can do it is with these green claims. So I see it all over the place. It really tends to take the form of greenwashing. Have any of you heard this term greenwashing before? It's really fake green claims. It's saying we're green when we're not. It's taking something that might be green and claiming a whole green philosophy around it. It's misleading consumers regarding the environmental practices of a company or the environmental benefits of a product or service. So greenwashing is something you want to be careful of, because when you're making green claims, and one thing we've done at Lexington Medical Center with Mark and his team, is we've gone out to the media, we've done story pitches, press releases, talking about this green effort and initiative that this hospital is doing. You have to be prepared to face the hard questions and the contradictions that come up. So, speaking of contradictions, here's the most extreme question you could get in your hospital, I think. How does your hospital handle, store, and dispose of radioactive waste? Right? Most hospitals have radioactive waste in them, right, that you have to dispose of. How many of you know what your disposal practices are and storage practices are for your hospital? Yeah, can you imagine not knowing that and having to report a call? In July of 2008, the state of South Carolina passed a law that shut down the one landfill that hospitals from 35 states around the country were using to dispose of radioactive waste. So it was being shipped from all over the country, 35 states, to this one landfill in South Carolina where it was packaged and disposed of carefully. So all of a sudden, hospitals, starting about 6 months ago, from 35 states had to find someplace different to put their radioactive waste. Do you know what most of them have decided to do? Store it themselves. So that's questionable. What are the storage practices? Is it safe? Luckily, the kind of radioactive waste you have in your hospitals have a very short half-life, so they can be disposed of fairly quickly. They will lose their radioactivity. It can be disposed of with regular waste. But during that interval, before they become non-hazardous, boy, you got to be careful what you do with that stuff. So one piece of advice, be ready for a call from a reporter to ask that question. Why should hospitals focus on being green? Well, hospitals are huge in electricity usage. It's the second largest industry in terms of electricity usage. You generate tons and tons, literally, of hazardous and non-hazardous waste, air emissions, wastewater, you name it. But there's more. This is not just about being earth-friendly, as I said earlier. This is about creating a healthy environment for patients, family, and your staff. Healthy and safe. It's much bigger than just being green. And I think in terms of marketing and getting credit for what you're doing, if you package the different things you're doing in terms of patient safety, green efforts, recycling, as a healthy hospital initiative, it's much easier for the press to get their arms around and write about it. It makes you look like a front runner in the healthy hospital movement in America. And it is definitely a movement. I've heard it in 2 or 3 presentations already here at this conference.